Now, I think it's very fair to say that when we take a very close look at the Walt Disney Company, one of the most failed divisions over there is Marvel Studios. If you look back at 2023, we witnessed a series of box office failures, but not just associated with Marvel Studios, also with Lucasfilm and among other studios like Walt Disney Animation, etc., etc. That's why 2023 was, in my book, the worst year for Disney, period, because the fact that it was also the 100th year anniversary didn't help at all for Bob Iger as the CEO with his overall stance on things. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So one thing about Marvel Studios right now is that we know that they are taking a different approach with both live action and animated material moving onwards, and how the agenda is continuing by Bob Iger, regardless of what he says about quieting down the noise or shifting away from any kind of forced agenda. It's all lies, and it's a way to basically string along the shareholders and the customers around the globe. Now, moving onwards here, Bob Iger has been pretty much engaging in a series of damage control efforts across the board, especially for Marvel, basically over the fact that The Marvels was the worst opening ever, period, for the MCU box office-wise. That is one thing that you can never run away from. It's a hard and given fact right then and there in 2023. However, what's interesting about all of this moving onwards has a lot to do with Bob Iger's overall attitude after what's been going on behind the scenes with X-Men 97 Season 2, Deadpool 3, etc., regarding Wolverine, and more. Now, with Bob Iger already creating a massive shakeup between the board of directors, one major development has much to do with Bob Iger and his recent impact over at Marvel Studios. Now, Bob Iger went on to deliver the following in the wake of the studio drama related to plans of a gender-swapped version of Wolverine for X-Men 97 Season 2. Iger shared the following. As CEO, I think it is an absolute necessity for all of our divisions to gravitate toward our usage of diversity, equity, and inclusion, especially with one of our most favored divisions such as Marvel Studios. The magic from Mr. Kevin Feige over at Marvel Studios is that with his usage of the multiverse, one of our favored story elements for Phase 6 and beyond, allows us to reimagine many fan-favorite Marvel characters through different genders and ethnicities so that we can allow ourselves to reach a wider global audience. This is not to be confused with any sort of an agenda, nor is it the Walt Disney Company engaging in a culture war of any kind. This is not what the Disney Company is about. Our usage of the multiverse allows us to provide new iterations of classic characters from the Avengers, X-Men, and many more in both animated and live-action form that we will be happy to announce in the near future. What we do find irresponsible from a small, loud group of our core customer base is that it is out of line to attempt to convince others that this translates to any sort of an agenda on our end or sending some form of a message that we believe. What we believe in providing and producing is nothing more than pure entertainment and to reimagine some familiar characters to connect and relate to those that hold different backgrounds and beliefs. We were able to do this with famous Disney characters like Snow White and Ariel of The Little Mermaid, and we plan to do this in the different fashion with famous characters from the Marvel Comics. Our support of new iterations and a reimagining of well-established characters for both animated and live-action projects, once again, is not to be confused with the Walt Disney Company getting involved in a culture war. As CEO, I would also like to address that we will be applying more of these techniques over time to slowly create a pattern to analyze on what works and what doesn't for these concepts. Now, apart from what Iger delivered here, this all alludes to plans for gender-swapping Wolverine in X-Men 97 Season 2 for 2026 that will meddle with aspects of the multiverse and to focus on that version of the character more so than the classic version of Wolverine. This also comes in the wake of how Ryan Reynolds, thankfully and successfully, was able to get Disney to cancel their live-action version of a gender-swapped Wolverine from Deadpool 3's third act. Already Bob Iger and Kevin Feige are preparing on race swapping and gender swapping known Marvel characters, especially in animated form, while using the multiverse as an excuse of a way of justifying why they are able to do this, with follow-ups to the animated series for Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and Iron Man are already in the works to essentially create a different take on the Marvel Universe, where they can bend the rules even more so with their usage of the multiverse moving onwards, something both Bob and Kevin are working on actively as we speak. Now here's the other problem, guys, about this. Now, everything related to the Marvel Cinematic Universe is already in shambles. We know that Captain America 4 is going through quite a troublesome production to begin with, and they want to get this thing out by February of next year. I don't believe they're going to make that deadline. We'll have to wait and see. But there's a lot of reshoots and rewrites for many of the expensive failures on the horizon for 2025. Now look, we know that X-Men 97 drops tomorrow on March 20th. X-Men 97 Season 2 sounds like it's going to be nothing more than a bait and switch, where Season 1 is going to kind of meddle with their agenda, but not making it too obvious, where it's more or less of a vague scenario, where Disney can somewhat get away with it, and then they're going to swap everything and really flip things over with Season 2. It's basically another bait and switch scenario across different seasons. Now, what I like about Ryan Reynolds, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, is that he was able to stop this from happening in live-action form with Deadpool 3, which, by the way, that movie is going to utilize the multiverse once again. And I know a lot of you are very tired of the multiverse. After No Way Home, I think it was about time to just call it quits and shift away from all of that, because at a certain point in time, it just loses its edge, right? It loses its magic. It was good for a couple of times at most. After that, you know, I think a lot of fans are just over it right now, because it's kind of taking away the value of what a cameo means or what a specific character's appearance means anymore, where it just doesn't really have any kind of significance to it moving onwards. So that's why the multiverse is kind of devaluing some core familiar characters, and as Bob Iger really made it very clear here, they are using the multiverse as an excuse to gender and race swap famous characters, and they don't care what fans think. They don't care if they think it's a culture war or any kind of an agenda. Bob Iger's denying all of that. He is refusing to accept the truth that that is exactly what it is. They're using the multiverse to literally justify swapping characters and really reimagining them with different race and different genders, etc., etc. That's what they're doing, whether they like it or not. So overall, I think at the end of the day, Bob Iger just is beginning to fall apart ahead of his 2026, step down. That's what he wants to do. He wants to step down from Disney by 2026, and these next 2 years aren't looking good. So overall, guys, drop a comment below. Fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.